Turn your drops into Mefjus level madness. The new course is out now. Link below.
We need two parts for the drums, a heavier and a little lighter at the second part. So let's use these for the kick and the snare. And normally I would use these rides, but this is too boring. So let's use a different one for the second and the third one for the last one. Now in the second part, let's use a little lighter drums. But at the end, let's create a little feel using the heavier drums. And basically we are done with the main drums, the fundamentals, but we need a lot more hi-hats, rides and percussion and shuffle. So on the first half, let's use an 8th tambourine. And a little busier on the second part, with a little more shuffle. But we need open hi-hats. So again, a little more on the 8th for the first half. And a little more broken at the second part. Okay, now the second part misses a little more rides. And luckily at the end of this loop there is a very nice feel. Pa-pa-pa. Now because the second part pulls back the energy a little from the first one because it's very heavy, we need to add a little more tonality to separate the second and the first half. And this percussion loop is perfect for that. Adds a very nice tonality. So this is how we distance the first and the second half a lot more with this little very nice tonal clavier loop. But we need some shuffle for the transitioning from the first half to the second. But you know what? Let's add a little more shuffle only to the second part. And we are done. The whole drum beat is fired with lots of details. But you know what? Let's add even more details by using FX. So the first one that is very important, a riser, that again has for the transition from the first half to the second. Now to add a little more tension for the second part, let's add a clap, a very long reverb clap effects. By dropping it a little later, we are creating even more tension by delaying it with this sound. Now let's resample this clap effects and we can use it as a riser. So I'll crank this up by 8 semitones and this impact sound, down drop or something, by 15 semitones. So right now, why is it genius? Because right now we're dealing with two impacts, a little lighter here and a little heavier here, stacking tangents. Okay, so the drums with the effects are done. Again, this is huge with lots of details, lots of ear candies. And it's time for the basses. Now the easiest part is to start with the sub with a little melody. So this is my melody. And the sub is super simple, I made it in Vital. One sound wave with a slide, a FM, a little more drive, and that's all basically. Without the FM, we don't have that nice growly kind of overtones. So that's why some slide FM here is actually very good for the sub. For every neuro bass or every Reese, we need a noise layer. This does not have tonality, but I copied the MIDI from previous layers. But basically it's just a sine wave and a noise compressed and distorted together. Very, very simple stuff. But we need synth layer. Now the melody is a little different than the sub has. So the sub is basically the fundamental of the harmony and the top layer is just a melody, I would say. This is how you build up a very nice Camo Krooked and Mefjus style kind of bass stack. So you don't want to follow the same very one-dimensional monophonic bass, but you want to play with the melody, with the layers. It's very simple, it's just a saw wave with a few effects here. Now keep in mind to kill the lows and the little effects to have a little width for the sound. And finally the main layer is not even more complicated than the previous ones. So without the post-process after Vital. So the fundamental is this saw wave with the noise. And I frequency modulated with oscillator 3 and a higher octave sine wave for the mid-range. They all go into filter 1 except the noise, where I added the drive 2. And in the effects all I have is a chorus and a chop on the lows. Right, so after that I apply this false pedal distortion and an overdrive to have the crunch and the greediness, and of course killing the lows and the mid-lows and the highs. So let's add the sub to this, the noise, and the top layer. All together with the drums. And for every Nero drum bass track, we need something here that connects perfectly with the down bass thing, down bass or synth or stack or whatever. So these two guys should go well in pair. So that's why I created this bass sound all together. And you will be surprised how simple this sound is, because the main character is given by the comp filter. So basically it's the sub on oscillator 3 and the saw wave with the harm stretch. That is actually important, because even though I add back the comp filter without the harm stretch, it sounds like a square wave, but with the harm stretch it's super cool. Let's just add back the sub and a little phaser movement for the comp filtered source sound. And a little distortion, a chorus, a compressor, an EQ to chop off the lows and the highs again, with a notch filter movement. That is not even that important. We basically got the sound. So without the effects, EQ, notch, compressor, chorus, distortion. It works even without the distortion too. We got the sound and some OTT and a little more cleanup after the OTT, we get the sound. Okay, so we have the downbeat bass and the filler. We need a new sound for the second part. Now, if you saw my tutorial on Mefjus Sidewinder, you can check it here. This is basically the same sound. I changed a few bits here, but the fundamental is the same. I made it in FacePalette and the fundamental is a sub like always. Then I added a wavetable that contains a sine and a little more noise on top that I modulated with a lot higher frequency, or a lot higher octave sine wave that sounds like this. Then we need another sound generator, this wavetable with some filtering. These all go into lane 1 except the sub, where I added a saturator, then a slice EQ, another slice EQ to tame the mid, then a disperser with a distortion after it. A disperser before distortion can create magic. You get a lot more cleaner and more aggressive sound on the mids. That is actually important. We love bass sounds that has a lot in the mids. Then a little extra gain and a little filter drop of the highs. Now all the affected generators, lane 1 and the sub, go into lane 2. I had to add a limiter, then an OTT, and the band 3 to add a little more gains on the highs. So this is a super simple sound. As you can see, we don't even have too much modulation, but altogether so this alone could work, but I need more. This is why I added a little more layers on the downbeat basses. This very simple kind of thing that comes from this sound. That is actually the filter bass that we just created, and the crash. So all together. Then I was like, let's tweak the filter bass a little more for the ending. So I resampled it and created this. So to prove it, this was it originally. I played with the transpositions of these hits and added some effects like a pedal, a flanger and an EQ. but I had to obviously add some layers to it. So this guy, and again a crash, but altogether they sound really good. So now altogether, if you love this and if you love the style of Mefjus, don't forget that I just dropped a huge and awesome masterclass on Letsynthesize Academy. Click here if you want to listen to it. It is very dense, it contains lots of information, lots of little beats and drops. Go and grab it if you want to learn more. And also you can grab this project on my Patreon below.